Hello everyone, myself Dr. S. MOHAMED NAZEER. This class I am going to teach you macroeconomics. In macroeconomics, income determination. J.M. Keynes published his book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money in 1936, which is considered as a pioneering work on macroeconomics. His objective was to analyze the cause of Great Depression in 1929 and to suggest some measures to overcome the situation. The classical economists believed that supply creates its own demand and full employment is automatically generated through the flexibility of wage and price. I repeat, the classical economist believed that supply creates its own demand and full employment is automatically generated through the flexibility of wage and price. Keynes opposed this idea and stated that employment depends on aggregate output, which in turn depends on aggregate demand. He pointed out that the root cause of the Great Depression was the deficiency of aggregate demand. Let's see aggregate demand and aggregate supply. We have discussed the concept of national income and its measurement in my previous videos. In this video, we will discuss the determination of equilibrium national income. National income reaches its equilibrium value when the aggregate supply equals to aggregate demand. The national income of an economy is measured by aggregate expenditure. The aggregate expenditure generates aggregate demand in a particular year. Aggregate expenditure generates aggregate demand in a particular year. Aggregate supply, on the other hand, is the total goods and services produced in the economy in a particular year. So, aggregate expenditure is the aggregate demand. The total value of goods and services is called the aggregate supply. At the equilibrium level of national income, aggregate supply equals to aggregate demand. So, we can say AS is equals to AD. Aggregate supply is equals to aggregate demand. Let's see the components of aggregate demand. Aggregate demand of an economy during a particular year refers to the planned or desired expenditure during the year. There are different parts of aggregate demand or expenditure as follows. See, this is the number one. The components of aggregate demand. The first component is the private consumption expenditure, denotes C. Private investment expenditure denotes I. Government expenditure denotes G. Net export, X minus M. So, aggregate demand is equals to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Let's see one by one. Private consumption expenditure. One of the major components of aggregate demand is the aggregate private consumption expenditure. It includes the expenditure made by the household sectors for purchase of consumption goods during a particular year. This is planned or desired consumption expenditure. This expenditure generates private demand for consumption goods. The consumption expenditure depends on disposable income. Okay. Number two, the second component, the private investment expenditure, that is I. Producers in the private sector spend money for purchasing investment goods for production purpose. The desired or planned expenditure made by the private sector for the purpose of investment goods during a particular year are aggregated to get the private investment expenditure of an economy. This expenditure creates private demand for investment goods. Some investment is autonomous and some investments depends on level of income. Okay, some investment depends on level of income. This is called induced investment. Okay, so there are two type of investment, autonomous investments and induced investments. Okay, the investments not depend on level of income, it is called autonomous investment. If the investment is depends on level of income, this is called induced investment. There is a negative relation between investment and rate of interest. Now the third component of aggregate demand, that is government expenditure, government investment. This is planned or desired expenditure of the government for the purchase of both consumption and investment goods during a particular year. The government can purchase consumption goods like food grains, clothing, houses, etc. for distribution purpose or for the use of army and other government employees. This expenditure made by the government is called a consumption expenditure. On the other hand, government can spend for the construction of roads, railways, bridge, power stations, etc. These expenditures constitute government investment expenditure. The government expenditure is autonomous in nature. It does not depend on level of national income. The last component of aggregate demand is net export. Net export is nothing but export minus import. Net export is calculated by deducting import expenditure from export earnings. It is an important component of aggregate demand since it denotes the desired net foreign expenditure on the goods and services produced by the country. Aggregate demand AD is equals to private consumption expenditure C plus private investment consumption, that is I. Here I. C plus I plus government expenditure G plus net export X minus M. This is also called aggregate expenditure in the economy. Now aggregate supply and its components. The total goods and services produced in an economy during a particular year is considered as the aggregate supply of the economy. I repeat, the total goods and services produced in an economy during a particular year is considered as the aggregate supply of the economy. It is nothing but national income. Aggregate demand is nothing but the demand of aggregate demand, the total demand of goods and services of a country in a year is aggregate demand. Here, the total goods and services produced in an economy during a particular year is considered aggregate supply or national income of a country. The components of aggregate supply is the economy refers to the ways in which the income earned in the economy is spent. Income earned in the economy is spent. The components are as follows. So the components are aggregate consumption plus aggregate saving plus net tax payment, that is tax payment to the government minus transfer payments and subsidies by the government. So aggregate supply is equals to C plus S plus T. C is nothing but aggregate consumption, S is nothing but aggregate saving, the T is nothing but net tax payment. Now I am going to explain the consumption function. According to Keynes, consumption is a stable function of disposable income. So the consumption equals to function of disposable income. C equals to F of YD, where C is the consumption, YD is the disposable income. Disposable income is nothing but income minus tax. Let's see the average propensity to consume, APC. The proportion of aggregate consumption to aggregate income is called average propensity to consume. So the average propensity to consume is equals to C by Y. So average propensity to consume is nothing but consumption by Y. Let's see the marginal propensity to consume, MPC. The change in aggregate consumption expenditure due to change in national income is called marginal propensity to consume. So delta C by delta Y. So this is called a marginal propensity to consume. Keynes formulated the relationship between aggregate consumption and income on the basis of the following assumptions. Number 1. Real consumption expenditure is a function of real income. Number 2. Consumption is a rising function of income. Consumption is the rising function of income. This means as income increases, consumption also increases. Number 3. The marginal propensity to consume is positive but less than 1. Marginal propensity to consume is positive but less than 1. This means that the consumption will rise as income rises, but the increase in consumption expenditure is less than the rise in income. So income will rise, the consumption will rise. The income rises is greater than the consumption rising. This is called the marginal propensity of consume is positive but less than 1. The fourth assumption, the consumption income ratio, C by Y, or the average propensity to consume. Okay, the average propensity to consume is consumption income ratio declines as income rises. So APC will decline when income rises. This can be explained with the help of diagram. Income Y is measured along the horizontal axis and the consumption C is measured on the vertical axis. Okay, CY is the line representing the consumption function. CY the line representing the consumption function. Slope of the line is marginal propensity to consume. The slope of the line is marginal propensity to consume. Slope of the rays like OA, OB, joining origin to any point of the consumption line represents the average propensity to consume. It is clear from the diagram that marginal propensity to consume or slope of the consumption function is positive but less than 1. It is also clear from the diagram that as income rises from OY1 to OY2, the slope of rays declines. The slope of rays declines. So it is clear that as income rises, average propensity to consume falls. Now, saving function. Saving is a rising function of income, and the saving function can be represented by S equals to F of Y. Saving is function of income. There is a close relation between consumption, income and saving. Saving is that part of income which is not consumed. So S equals to Y minus C. Income minus consumption, remaining is saving. This can be explained with the help of diagram. In the above diagram, saving and consumption are measured on the vertical axis and income is measured on the horizontal axis. CY represents the consumption function. OC is the level of consumption at the zero level of income. Where there is a income is zero, the consumption is there. Okay. a 45-degree line. A 45-degree line is drawn from the origin which cuts the consumption function at point A. At this point, income is equals to consumption. So income is equals to consumption. Okay. At this point, saving is 0. When income is equals to consumption, that point saving is 0. After that, income becomes greater than the consumption. The remaining amount will be saved here. The saving will be positive. So yes, Y represent the saving function. Where consumption is equals to income, saving is 0. Before that here, the consumption is greater than the income, saving is negative. When the consumption is equals to income, the saving becomes 0. When income is greater than the when income is greater than the consumption, saving is positive. Let's see average propensity to save and marginal propensity to save. The average propensity to save is the proportion of income which is saved. So average propensity to save is saving by income. The marginal propensity to save is nothing but delta S by delta Y, change in saving by change in income. So this is called a marginal propensity to save. The MPS is the slope of the saving function. Let's see the relation between APC and APS. We have known that there is a close relation between income, consumption and saving. So income is equals to consumption plus saving. Dividing both sides by Y, we get 1 equals to APC, average propensity to consume plus average propensity to save. So the APS is 1 minus APC. APC is 1 minus APS. If APC is 8, then APS is 2. Then we get 1. Let's see the relation between marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to save. We know that income is equals to C, consumption plus S. If there is a change in income, a part of income is consumed and remaining part is saved. So delta Y, the change in income, is equals to change in consumption plus change in saving. Dividing both sides by delta Y, we get 1 equals to MPC plus MPS. MPC is nothing but 1 minus MPS. So as MPC rises, MPS falls and vice versa. Now I am going to explain investment function. The main determinants of investment are the rate of interest and the level of income. The level of income and the rate of interest is the main determinant of investment. The investment function shows the functional relationship between investment and its determinants. Private investment can be broadly divided into two types: autonomous investment, induced investment. Let's see one by one. Autonomous investment is that part of investment which is independent of level of income. So the investment is independent of level of income. Whether the income is increasing or decreasing, investments are there. That is called autonomous investment. Here, investment is fixed autonomously. On the other hand, induced investment is dependent on a level of income. Induced investment, when level of income increases, the induced investment will increase. When level of income decreases, the induced investment will decrease. There is a positive relation between induced investment and the level of income. Investment function takes the forms of investment is equals to investment in bracket Y, or investment is a function of level of income. It can be explained with the help of diagram. There are three types of investments: autonomous investment, induced investment, and investment is related with the rate of interest. There is a negative relationship between investment and the rate of interest. Okay, let's see one by one. See, this diagram shows the autonomous investment. So y-axis represents income, y-axis represents investment, x-axis represents income. So there is no change in the income. There is no change in the whether it is income is increasing or decreasing, the same level of investment. That is called the autonomous investment. Look here in this diagram, this curve shows the induced investment. Okay. See, when income increases, the investment is also increasing. This diagram shows the investment that relates to rate of interest. See, look here. Here, when rate of interest is decreasing, the investment is increasing. So, the curve is downward sloping curve. Now, I am going to explain equilibrium income. Aggregate demand equals to aggregate supply approach. The national income of a country reaches at the equilibrium level when aggregate demand equals to aggregate supply. That is, AD equals to AS. We have already discussed about the components of aggregate demand. Aggregate demand C plus I plus G. Okay. Plus X minus M. In the closed economy, net export will not come. So C is the aggregate consumption, I is the aggregate investment, G is the government expenditure. So Y is equals to C plus I plus G. This C plus I plus G also called aggregate expenditure. Okay. Let's see with the help of the diagram. We measure income on horizontal axis and the components of aggregate demand on vertical axis. We also draw the 45-degree line. This line is called the aggregate supply curve. The consumption function shows the line C plus I plus G is shown separately. This is parallel to a line to C line. Parallel to line to C line. Okay. The I plus G is autonomous expenditure which are independent of income. 45-degree line shows the equality between Y and C plus I plus G. The diagram 45-degree line, the 45-degree line aggregate supply curve, okay, cut the aggregate demand curve C plus I plus G at point E. So, E is the equilibrium point where aggregate demand is equals to aggregate supply. YE is the equilibrium level of national income. At the level of income, aggregate, see look here, at the level of income, aggregate demand is equals to aggregate supply. At the level of income Y1, look here, so here the aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply. This induces the producer to produce more and this in turn raises the national income. Okay, this process will continue till Y equals to C plus I plus G. We know that Y is nothing but aggregate supply is equals to aggregate demand. Similarly, when the level of income is Y2, here, look here, here the aggregate supply curve is greater than the aggregate demand curve and excess supply situation induce the producer to reduce the production. So, the income will decrease. This process will also continue until the Y is equals to aggregate supply is equals to aggregate demand. So, this is the equilibrium of income AD-AS approach. Equilibrium of income AD, aggregate demand and aggregate supply approach. Now I am going to explain saving investment approach. The equilibrium level of national income can also be determined. The equilibrium level of national income can also be determined when desired aggregate investment plus government expenditure equals to desired aggregate saving plus taxation. So I plus G equals to S plus T. From the first condition of equilibrium, we know that the equilibrium level is Y equals to C plus I plus G. Y is nothing but aggregate supply equals to C plus I plus G. We also know that the component of aggregate supply C plus S plus T. Therefore, CIG equals to CST. So C plus I plus G equals to C plus ST. We excluded this consumption. IG, investment and government expenditure, is equals to saving plus taxation. So this approach is called a saving investment approach. This can be explained with the help of diagram. In this diagram, income is measured x-axis, that is horizontal axis, and S plus I plus G are measured on the vertical axis. Since I plus G are independent of level of income, the I plus G schedule is a horizontal straight line parallel to x-axis. S plus T is an upward sloping line showing the direct relationship between saving and income, which shows when income is increasing, the saving will increase. Okay, this is the upward sloping line of the ST. At point E, saving plus tax is equals to investment plus G, showing the equality between S plus T and I plus G. Corresponding to this equality of income reaches at equilibrium level of income, that is YE. At Y1, here look here, I plus G is greater than S plus T. This implies that aggregate demand exceeds aggregate supply. So there is unintended inventory depletion. As a result, producer will produce more. So this will increase the national income. This process will continue until aggregate demand is equals to aggregate supply. Okay. Both are equal at point E. On the other hand, at level of income Y2, here, look here, S plus T is greater than I plus G. This implies an excess aggregate supply. A part of the total output remain unsold, resulting in an unintended inventory accumulation. The producer will reduce their production. This process will continue until the aggregate demand is equals to aggregate supply. This approach is called a saving investment approach, the equilibrium level of national income.